very important to bear in mind, this is critical here, not all trusts are the same. You want a trust that's not going to damage you later on. If you're a veteran applying for VA benefits, if you're going to be in need of those Medicaid benefits later on, and again, none of us know the future here, so we want to plan for that and have a trust that we know will work for us should we need those benefits later on. And as the slide indicates, not all trusts are the same. The best, by far and away, the best trust in this situation is the Asset Protection Trust, because that's the trust that protects you while you're alive. I was asked earlier about a revocable living trust. The problem with the revocable living trust here is that you have full, complete access to all your assets inside the trust, and so that means so do your creditors. The difference with the Asset Protection Trust is your creditors do not have access to the assets in these trusts. So they protect you for a spouse or for a loved one later on, or for if you're a single person, for yourself, for your own living expenses. Those assets, your CDs, your savings, everything goes into the trust here, and they're protected for you later on. Now, the first question that I usually get here from a client is, well, what about control? Can I maintain control? Can I still be in control of this trust? And the answer is yes, you can. Just like you have an executor of a will, you have a trustee of a trust. And the trustee is a manager, if you will. The trustee manages the trust, and that can be you. That should be you. It's your money. That should be you as long as you're still able to do so. So you still maintain control, and the accounts can stay where they are. So if you have a bank account with BB&T, or Bank of America, if you have accounts with Fidelity or Vanguard or whomever it may be, those accounts still stay where they are. It's simply a name change. So if Mr. and Mrs. Jones have an account with Vanguard, we contact Vanguard and we say, okay, now Mr. and Mrs. Jones have this trust. We want the Vanguard account held in the name of the Jones Trust. So it's a name change, but the key thing is it's going to protect those assets for them later on. So the same advantages of a living trust in the sense that we avoid probate, we avoid going down to the courthouse, filing with the judge, filing all those accountings. The asset protection does that as well, but it adds the key piece of protecting your assets for you later on. The trust acts as a will. So if you have a will that says everything to my kids or everything to my grandkids, the trust can do that as well. In fact, it's a lot more flexible. I have clients say, okay, the grandchildren, I don't want to get them have money until they're 21 or 25 or graduate from college or whatever the case may be. The trust can do all those things as well. In fact, it's a lot more flexible than the will because the trust can carry on, if you wish it to, the trust can carry on after you pass on if you have young grandchildren. But if it's just, let's say it's just you and 2 adult children, then the money just goes to the kids and that's the end of the trust. But the point is it was there for you when you needed it. That's why you retitle the home and the other assets into the trust for that protection. Yes, sir?
So does that trust protect your assets from, say, a nursing home if die, then
It does. It does. The question was, does it protect the assets from the nursing home? And the answer to that is it protects your assets from all creditors immediately, with one exception. So if I create the Asset Protection Trust now, let's say in April of 2011, that protects me against my creditors immediately, except existing creditors. You know, if I already owe somebody money and I go out and create a trust so I don't have to pay them, that's illegal. But generally speaking, once the trust is created, it protects you from all creditors. Now, the only exception to that is the nursing home. Now, because of Medicaid, because of the 5-year look-back period, this is why I say, we need to plan ahead. This section of the workshop is about planning ahead. So if I create the Asset Protection Trust now in August of 2011, I need to stay healthy until August of 2016. So it protects against all creditors immediately, but Medicaid, it protects after the 5-year period. So, the moral of the story there obviously is plan ahead. We want to do this while we're still, relatively young and healthy and able to get through this 5-year period. I don't know, if you've dealt with attorneys in the past, oftentimes people are nervous about calling them because you call the lawyer, you have a 10-minute telephone conversation. What happens? You get a bill in the mail, right? So we don't do that. It's a fixed fee up front, and I tell you what that is. So there are no surprises. And we want you, we encourage you to call if you have questions or your family has questions. We encourage you to call, and you've already paid me, so you don't have to worry about calling with those questions. And I think that's important. Okay, so, yes, ma'am.
When would you have to, look at all of this again? Because I know, like 15 years ago, my husband and I moved here. We had all of this done, but we've never looked at it.
Right. Question is, how often do you have to update it? I recommend every 5 years or so. We can have a quick meeting, a consult. I can tell you if there's been any major changes in the law, although if you're a client, we would advise you if there are major changes in the law anyway. But if you've had changes in family circumstances, it's a good time to get together, every 4 or 5 years, somewhere in there. Also, a big difference between a revocable living trust and the asset protection trust is I think this asset protection trust really encourages folks to get the assets in the trust. Because I can't tell you how many times, particularly someone moves from another state and they bring me the trust in, and like you say, no one's looked at the trust in 15 years, and there's nothing in the trust. So that, that doesn't do you any good. They've forgotten when they left, California, they've forgotten they moved to Virginia. Whoops, we were supposed to put the house in the trust. They've opened new accounts. None of the accounts are in the trust. When you understand with the Asset Protection Trust that that's your protection, that's your box, that's your safe, if you will, and you want everything inside that safe, that really encourages people to remember, when we open up that new account, it's really important to open that in the name of a trust. And it's very simple. The only difference is you go into the bank and you sign the signature forms, you're signing Mr. and Mrs. Jones, trustees of the trust. And as long as you keep up with that, it's quite simple. But yeah, I would say, every 5 years or so, it's good to have a review And that doesn't mean spending a lot of money with the lawyer and, you know, doing everything all over again. Just means touching base and making sure everything's up to date. Okay, so best way to protect yourself is with the long-term asset protection plan, both the financial as well as the legal documents, having all those in place.